TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop. Come on, baby, higher. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop.
Welcome to Balls and Bowties podcast. I am your co-host, Frankie.
And I am the co-host, Rhyan Shanklin.
We want to thank our sponsors before we get into this WagerWire, which is one of our main sponsors. They do all sports betting. Combine your sports betting so you do not have to worry about them being in different places, not knowing what's going on. Combine them and be a better sports bettor overall. Viva Tequila Seltzer and all of their flavors, including their new one, coconut. We are cuckoo for coconuts here at East Coast Sports Investors. Go to wherever you get your adult beverages. And if they don't have Viva, ask them why. And our last sponsor, Atlanta Steaks and Seafoods. If you're looking for any quality meat or any seafood that and you don't want to go to the store, go to Atlanta Steaks and Seafoods Facebook or on atlantasteaksseafoods.com and order there. We're going to start this week with college football. What an insane week we had with college football this week. Alabama falls, Tennessee falls, Missouri falls, Michigan falls, USC falls, Louisville falls, UNLV falls. 1, 4, 9, 10, 11, 22, and 25 all out the window in the first and the biggest massacre we've seen to start the season.
Absolutely messed up everybody's possible parlays.
Oh my gosh. If you bet on an underdog, congratulations. You probably won this week, to be honest.
Absolutely.
We're going to talk about a couple. Obviously, Alabama coming off a huge week for beating Georgia. And then all of a sudden they fall to a Vanderbilt team that by no means is bad. I mean, they're in the SEC. Like we talked about, anybody in the SEC can beat anybody.
Absolutely.
But you're still Alabama. You cannot lose that game.
Yeah.
And then Tennessee on a Sunday or Saturday night football falls to Arkansas in a close game, 14-19. Like we said, their defense showed up, but then their offense didn't. They don't have Joe Milton now to carry them into those couple of points that they would probably be okay with taking. The 30-point games. They don't have those anymore without Joe Milton. So Nico struggles and they lose. Missouri gets kicked by Texas A&M. Tough performance from Missouri all around. There was not a whole lot of good there, to be honest, watching that game.
That's when you just sweep under the rug and you move on.
Yeah, coaches probably watching film and have a couple of things to show, but there's too much to go over, honestly. And as a coach, it's going to be hard to watch back for them, I assume.
Yeah.
Michigan falls to Washington. Couldn't get their passing game going, but we knew that was going to be a struggle with J.J. McCarthy not there. USC falls to Minnesota. They could also not getting their run game or passing game going. Offense was stagnant. Minnesota takes advantage. SMU versus Louisville. SMU comes out to a big lead to begin the game, takes advantage of it, and pulls it out in the end after Louisville tried to make a comeback. And then Friday night's game, Syracuse versus 25 UNLV. High-scoring game, 44-41. UNLV falls with their backup quarterback, as we all know, their starting quarterback not playing due to not fulfilled payments by UNLV. All craziness happened last week.
Man.
But this week is arguably going to be even crazier with some of these top matches.
Yes.
We're going to start it off with the number new, back and now reigning, number 1 seed Texas. They lost it for a week, and they're like, nah, I want that spot back. They're going to be facing Oklahoma. I know there's a name for this game. I looked it up earlier, definitely forgot it, but this is going to be a huge game. Both teams move from the Big 12 or the SEC, and this is going to be the statement game. If Oklahoma can win, this might be a game they jump into the college playoffs. But if Texas wins, this solidifies them as the number 1 seed.
Absolutely. This is honestly a bigger game for Oklahoma than Texas, just because, like, as you just said, both teams made that jump from Big 12 to SEC. But yes, Oklahoma's an A team. But if they are able to pull this game out this week, this will be able to solidify them. I think just getting that last spot or even being on the bubble for the last spot, and it gives them a fighting chance for the committee to get them in. And Texas is honestly just another game for them. Honestly, there's no, minus the rivalry behind it, there's no like true like, okay, we have to win this game. Just besides keeping their true number 1 ranking. But yeah.
Yeah, we see Quinn Ewers going to get returned out for this game. Archie Manning will not probably get the start.
Yeah.
As much as we've enjoyed it, it's time for the big dogs to come back for this big matchup, which is going to be a very telling sign. Obviously, they gave Quinn Ewers more time than we thought he would give, so he should be healthy.
Absolutely.
But is there an adjustment period coming back? Maybe it's a 1 possession, maybe it's a quarter, but maybe it does last a whole game.
Yeah.
And Texas falls in because of it. So we'll see what he looks like, and also what does their leash look like. They still have Archie Manning, who's been performing pretty well the last couple of weeks. So maybe they have a short leash with Ewers. Like, we know you're healthy, but if you can't play at this top level versus a number 18 team that's going to be probably in the playoffs, then we're going to pull you pretty quick. Who knows what this could be?
I mean, this is it's weird, but I think they could also run a 2 quarterback system.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've seen it at different programs, but I think they could definitely run a 2 quarterback system, and the short leash could play a factor into our team maybe getting back in there and taking over. But I think it'll be best for them to run a 2 quarterback system, just to give Quinn Ewers some time just to get back into that feel. And also just to get back on the same page with the receivers, because like the last few weeks they've been preparing with Archie, so they're kind of used to him and kind of used to where he's throwing the ball and everything like that. So just getting them back on the same page. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't see Texas losing this game. Should be a really good one, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to take Texas to cover the money line.
I got Oklahoma. It's a dogfight, but I see them alone from the rivalry. I see them coming in with a lot of energy just into the game, just because they know that their season, far as postseason wise, their postseason future is very dependent on this game alone. So this is it's going to be a close game for sure, just because Texas is a powerhouse right now, and college football runs through them really. But yeah, I got Oklahoma pulling this one out close one.
Yeah, Red River Rivalry is the name. Come back to me. Had to have a little time in the show to get the brain fog out, but it's going to be a big one. 14-point spread, -700 for Texas, and plus 500 for Oklahoma. Probably gets a lot closer when the game gets closer. So if you're looking to bet Oklahoma, it's probably the time to bet it right now.
Yeah.
Don't wait until the game comes when the line gets closer.
Yeah.
And then what we thought we didn't know about this game, but this probably is the bigger game.
It's probably the biggest game of the week.
Probably number 2 Ohio State versus number 3 Oregon. Arguably the second biggest game in the season. Maybe it could be the first, depending on how it goes behind Alabama and Georgia.
Yeah.
But this is going to be an absolutely telling game. Oregon struggled to start the year, falls in the rankings, but with everybody else falling, they've kind of been that silent killer who's just doing their work, doing their job, winning these games, and now they're back up there as a number 3 seed versus an Ohio State team that people are calling that the most talented team ahead of Texas, in some opinion. What do you think about this game?
It's a statement game for Oregon, just to see if they're really deserving of that number 3 spot. And if they win, obviously they're gonna move up past Ohio State. but it's a bigger game for Oregon than it is for Ohio State because we've all known Ohio State to be good every single year. But as you said, Oregon struggled earlier this year. Oregon struggled earlier this season, so this will be a bigger impacting game for them, and it could be honestly, like if they lose this game, they honestly could lose their spot for college football playoffs. But yeah, it's going to be hard to come into this game as Ohio State. It's going to be hard for Ohio State to come into the game.
Yeah.
Just thinking, just like going through the motions and everything, because I mean, obviously Oregon's at 3 for a reason. But yeah.
Yeah, I would see here it's a +3 spread for Oregon. However, they give them only a 35% chance to win. So we're kind of seeing this oddity. They're like, it's going to be close. We know it's going to be close, but we don't think they're going to pull it away. Oregon's got to be close.
Yeah.
Even if they lose, but they only lose by 1, at least they still have a chance.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? There's the Big 10, and the SEC are going to have so many teams in the playoffs that they can't afford to lose this game by 20 like Georgia did in the first half. They're going to have to come out and make a statement. But Ohio State is not an easy team to do that against. In my opinion, they are the best team in the nation. I think Texas, with their whole quarterback system, is going to be interesting. I think Ohio State proves that they can beat anyone and will beat anyone every week. And they don't have lapses like Georgia did, lapses like Alabama had last week.
Yeah.
They are going to show up every week and ready to go. So I'm okay with taking Ohio State at -165. It's probably not as much as I would have hoped for a number 2 and 3, but Ohio State's going to, I think, come out and win this game by a close margin.
Yeah. I actually also had Ohio State win this game just because, like you were saying, I mean, they are arguably the best team in the country. But they just get it done on both sides of the ball. Offensively, they have 2 wideouts that are just unstoppable. And honestly, I'm not too sure about Oregon's secondary and their ability to contain them.
Yeah.
And even with that, their run game's never terrible either. So
No.
it's going to be hard to stop either way. Either it's by passing the ball or running the ball, it's going to be hard to stop.
Yeah, it'll be the QB matchup. So the transfers, Will Howard from K-State comes into Ohio State. And Dylan Gabriel comes on for Oklahoma and comes to Oregon. So it's really going to be who has their team more prepared quarterback-wise, because both of them have dominant running backs, and they will be prominent in the game.
Absolutely.
But if the first quarterback to make mistakes is going to be the one to lose their team the game.
Yeah.
So be watching that game. That's going to be a super interesting one. And the last one to end the night for us, Ole Miss versus LSU, 9-13. Ole Miss loses 2 weeks ago, and everybody thinks they're out of it. They're gone. Still a 9 seed. With all the craziness, they jump back into the top 10.
Yeah.
Now they have to face a team in LSU who's obviously super competitive and 13 seed. LSU, though, hasn't already played anybody since they lost that big game versus USC at the start of the year.
Yeah.
So it'll be telling how they come to this game. We don't really know what they look like versus a good matchup. Obviously, they played competitive, high-powered 5 teams.
Yeah.
But when you get that top 10, it gets real serious. So it'll be interesting. Ole Miss they both need this game more than any of these other teams we've talked about.
It's a SEC matchup, so we know it's going to be great football. But I think LSU is going to come in really prepared this week because they're sitting at 13 right now. But they are going to be fighting for a spot to even just be talked about for college football playoffs. Just with the way that things are shaking up right now, we really don't know who's going to be in besides obviously your Georgia, your Bama, your Ohio State.
Yeah.
But even with them right now, it's
You don't
very
know.
questionable. But LSU is going to be fighting very hard this week. They're going to come in very well prepared. As long as they stay disciplined, it should be a very good game for them. And then Ole Miss, they are just a really good football team.
Yeah.
They had a little slip up 2 weeks ago, but they're a really good football team, and it's going to be hard to beat them.
Like we've seen from Kentucky and Vanderbilt this year, those 2 teams can beat these big teams. That's what they did versus Ole Miss. They always stay close. I mean, Kentucky the week before, they beat Ole Miss, stay close to Georgia.
Yeah.
So it's not like that's a terrible loss. They're not ranked.
Yeah.
So it is still a bad loss. Don't get me wrong. But that doesn't mean that that's going to kick by the playoffs. Now, one of these teams that probably loses probably doesn't make the playoffs. But you never know with this oddity that we've seen where teams are just falling everywhere. Doesn't matter what seed you are, you can lose every week now. 1 through 25 and beyond. So I would assume whoever loses this game doesn't make the playoffs, which is why it's so high stake for both teams. And I don't think they were really going to face another serious competition, at least LSU's side, to push them back in if they do lose. Ole Miss they still have Oklahoma, they still have Georgia, but LSU doesn't have that same kind of luxury of playing top teams. They face Alabama and they face Texas A&M and Oklahoma at the end, but they're going to have to win this game because they're going to lose 2 out of the 3 between Texas A&M, Alabama, and Oklahoma, in my assumption.
Yeah, absolutely. I personally have LSU pulling this one out. I think they're just going to come in with a lot more pride, and obviously they have a lot more to lose with losing this game. So I think they're going to come in, like I said, they're going to come in very well prepared this week. So it's going to be hard for them to come in and just lay an egg.
Yeah.
So
I think I'm going to take Ole Miss. I think coming off that Kentucky loss, there's a lot of motivation there behind them, saying like people are like, oh, they're counting us out already. We're the number 9 seed in the world for a reason. I think they come back, make a statement, and they end up winning this one in a close matchup, but a high-flying, high-scoring. And that's the thing about both of these offense. They're both going to put up points. So it's going to be who scores the most, who has the ball last, probably.
Whoever makes the first turnover. And whoever's able to capitalize off that turnover, honestly.
We're going to go to a commercial break. We'll come back and talk about NFL. We have plenty of more to talk about afterwards with the MLB and NBA coming next.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop. Come on, take me higher. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop.
All right, and we're back. Just going to go over – we're going to recap Week 5 of the NFL and then dive into Week 6. Buccaneers, Falcons, Ravens, Saints – Ravens, Bengals, and Saints, Chiefs. I did go to the Chiefs-Saints game last night myself. It was a great atmosphere to be in. And honestly, at some point in the game, you didn't think it was a football game anymore because they were all cheering for the Royals. But we will dive into MLB a little later. But Buccaneers, Falcons, your thoughts on that game this past week?
Yeah, that game was insane. Thursday Night Football, it came down to the wire. We saw Kirk Cousins throw for 519 passing yards.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, it's like someone get some ice for that guy's shoulder for real.
Kirko Bangs.
The Buccaneers don't pull it out, but in an overtime victory versus a Falcons team that we talked about how talented they were coming into the week.
Yeah.
It's not a bad loss, especially in the the other side of the NFC. They don't really have a whole lot of top teams, with the Eagles being struggling, 49ers struggling. So I don't think the Buccaneers and Falcons, either one, were detrimented. I think they both gained from the game, even though Buccaneers lost. So they should be coming in looking good for the next week.
Yeah. And then those Ravens Bengals, that game was definitely interesting. I honestly didn't think it was going to be as close as it was. I honestly thought the Ravens were going to win by a landslide or by a large margin, but that was definitely not the case. But you can never count the Bengals out, no matter what their record is, because that division there is a hard division to win out of. But I was surprised because Joe Burrow played a lot better than what I thought. But
yeah,
he definitely has a lot more to improve.
Yeah, this QB matchup was insane. Neither quarterback played bad at all, other than Lamar Jackson fumble at the end, and they still ended up winning it, so it didn't matter. It was high-flying offense versus high-flying offense, and one of the most entertaining games we've had all year. It kind of lived up to the hype. We didn't know. Both of them kind of not great records compared to what they expected, but they showed up like they're both 4-0.
Absolutely. And then that Chiefs-Saints game, obviously Chiefs won. It was a good win for them, but still way too many penalties.
Yeah.
Way too many penalties for them to be able to make a postseason Super Bowl run.
Yeah, they're going to have to clean up a lot of stuff, especially with Rice gone now. Yeah. They're going to need to see the penalties go away, and they're going to need to see playmakers like Juju and Worthy step up, and then probably Sky Moore if they don't make a trade soon. It looks like they're in the trade talks for Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard. So him and DeAndre Hopkins both out there looking for trades. Possible they get one of those guys, which would make a big difference. Obviously, big targets, probably bigger than Rasheed Rice, but they're still going to have to perform until they get there.
Yeah, they would love to get Hopkins, but that's not going to happen. Raiders hate the Chiefs, so we all know that's not going to happen. But Kelsey stepped up big, and we finally saw him get the ball consistently, and he was able to produce, which really helped propel them to that win. So, but moving on to Week 6 NFL, Jets coach gets fired.
Yeah, Robert Saul gets the chopping block. I don't know how much of this loss is on him, or at least their record so far. We've seen they've scored the exact same amount of points this season with Aaron Rodgers in the first 5 games as they did the last season with Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
They added Mike Williams. They added offensive line help. So it's not, to me, it's not on him. I get where they're coming from, right? The head coach can make a big difference. We look at like a D'Amico Ryans who came into a Texans program that was terrible, turned them around with basically the same team. Now, obviously, they added Stroud, they added some other pieces, but there wasn't a whole lot of change, and they improved. But I don't think you could put the whole blame on Sal and say that he's gone. I think it's kind of a hard decision. They've had conversations after losing, but
absolutely,
to me, he shouldn't have been fired that fast.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers struggles.
Yeah, and I was going to say, we talked about it before the show. The struggles of the team aren't completely on him. Obviously, he is a huge factor because he's a head coach. But you can't pin poor play on him.
Mm-hmm.
Rodgers, I mean, he's got to step it up. He threw, three interceptions last week? Two interceptions last week, which are uncharacteristic for him to throw consecutive in the same game. But yeah, and then the offensive line, they started well, but then they started to struggle. So part of the poor play contributes back to the O-line, but these are things that you can't change as a head coach for sure.
Yeah.
Like you can't change how well or poorly the offensive line plays. You can't change where Rodgers throws the ball. You can only dial up better plays.
Yeah.
But he's dialing up good plays, just they're not being executed well.
Yeah.
And they're playing a lot of teams that are sitting back in coverage because they know they don't have to worry about Rodgers escaping the pocket. So
yeah, I would honestly say the more blame goes on their OC than their head coach. I don't think their offense produced. They have Breece Hall in the backfield, and even when they rushed 4 guys on the defense, he still can't get through.
Yeah.
Which is what a lack of play calling, lack of explosivity, but also obviously he's talking about Aaron Rodgers got to take part of the blame.
Yeah.
He's talking about a guy who's going to be an instant Hall of Famer, coming back from the injury. Obviously, we knew he wasn't going to be the guy he was, but he has to be better than what he is. I mean, he's getting outperformed by Zach Wilson last year, who is now cut from the NFL. How does that happen? You can't have that happen with a guy that you thought was going to change your team. He's got to play better, and the offensive coordinator's got to give him positions to play better. But he's got to execute when they do. They give him chances, deep shots, and he throws picks. He's got to figure it out.
Absolutely. Well, moving on from there, we got the 49ers and Seahawks.
Yeah, Thursday Night Football. Big game for the 49ers. Absolutely huge game for the 49ers. 2-3 to start the years. Without McCaffrey has been a big part of it. But Brock Purdy, with 2 interceptions last week, absolutely struggled. They're going to need to bounce back. But also the Seahawks were super high. It's going to be not an easy game to beat. A divisional opponent and all that, and it all plays a factor. So what we're going to see is, can Brock Purdy respond, or more than Geno Smith can carry their team? Because the lack of running game from Seattle has not really shown up in their box scores. They're still winning games. So it's going to have to be Brock Purdy that's going to have to do something tonight.
Yeah, I mean, and they're both coming off losses, so we'll see who makes the better turnaround. Obviously, like you said, Brock Purdy needs to play a lot better. Threw 2 interceptions last week, but we also just need to see Geno Smith making better plays, and then try to get the run game involved. You can't rely on the pass all the time. So, but yeah, who do you have for that game?
I think the 49ers' disparity is what gives them the win here. They desperately need a win. Falling to 2-4 would be the worst situation for the 49ers.
Coming off the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they cannot have that happen. If they fall, they go to 3-3. You feel a little better. It's 500. Obviously, not what you wanted.
Yeah.
But then maybe by the time McCaffrey gets back, they make that push. They can still win the division. But if you lose here, Seattle is playing well. The Rams are hurt, but they're still playing decent.
Yeah.
The Cardinals just beat the San Francisco 49ers last week.
Mm-hmm.
So you just never know with any of those teams. 49ers have to win more than Seattle has to win. So that's why they're going to pull it out on my end.
Absolutely. I have the Seahawks winning, though. The only reason I say that is because Niners are coming off a 1-point loss and Seahawks are coming off of a 9-point loss to the Giants.
Yeah.
So obviously to me, the game that Seattle lost stung more than the Cardinals because the Cardinals are they're not going to always be a good team, but they're a pretty solid team.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the Giants.
Yeah.
They are historically they are not good. So the fact that they lost to them was kind of like a gut punch, but also like it's like an embarrassing loss. So
Yeah.
I think that they're going to come in this week, honestly, more frustrated and more willing to win, just coming off of that poor performance last week. So
yeah, it's going to be a tough game, but both those teams are looking for big victories on Thursday night. It's going to be great.
yeah. Next game, Commanders and Ravens.
Jaden Daniels looks like the best quarterback, obviously, from this class, but one of the best we've seen rookies
in a while.
In a long time. Outperforming C.J. Stroud's rookie year, which we didn't think was possible with anybody. We thought maybe Caleb Williams, maybe. And it was a far stretch. And now Jaden Daniels is coming in without Eric Bieniemy, who's now at UCLA, a new offensive coordinator. They're running the spread offense that you'd see in a college game to perfection.
Yeah.
Obviously, big pieces added, like Austin Eckler does add a lot of depth. Brian Robinson playing really good, and Terry McLaurin finally gets a quarterback who can throw the ball. Honestly, let's be real, that's the difference for him. But J.D.'s legs is what makes the difference for Washington. It's not there. It's not his throwing arm. He's only got 4 passing touchdowns. It's his legs. He could throw deep. Don't get me wrong, but when you have a guy like that, kind of similar to Lamar, who we're going to see on the other side, it's super hard to guard. But I would argue, and I don't even think it's an argument, that Daniels' arm is better than Jackson's. So
absolutely, yeah, it is definitely better than Lamar's for sure. But I think the Ravens are going to be really ready defensively because you got to think about it. You literally said it yourself. You said you're looking almost at another Lamar Jackson, but just with a better arm. So we're going back to think about practice wise.
Yeah.
The defense is seeing this guy every day for 16 weeks. So they've been seeing him for a few years now. So I think they're well equipped to understand the caliber quarterback of what he can do. So I think they're going to come in well prepared, and I think this might be a bad game for him. But I don't know, because even the games we thought he was going to do bad, he's performed really, really well. So
yeah, his ability to get outside the pocket is what's done it. And like you said, though, they're going to be prepared for him to get out of the pocket.
Yeah,
they're going to play very containment on the edges and then force him to go down the middle. Probably have a linebacker, sit in the middle as a QB spy, which is exactly what they do in practice all week for Lamar Jackson.
Exactly.
So both sides, I don't see the quarterback make the difference. But
I think it's the defense.
It's going to have to be the defense and Derrick Henry over Brian Robinson. I'm taking that matchup all day. But 4-1, the Washington Commanders, you can't argue with it. You're only as good as your record. That's what they say. You're only as good as your record. And 4-1 beats 3-2.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I got the Ravens winning this one solely just from the defensive end because, like we just talked about, it's basically another Lamar, and they're going to be prepared. And honestly, this is going to be like the biggest challenge for the Commanders this year, because this is a real established and playoff ready team.
Yeah,
the Ravens, despite their record, this is a playoff ready team. So this is going to give them a real taste of what a postseason could look like.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to take Washington here. Such a tough game. I just think Baltimore came off a high emotional game for Cincinnati, and that has to play a factor a little bit in how they perform. going to feel a little bit like deflated because they just gave everything they had like it was a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
In a regular season of Week 5. And I think Washington rolling off of the Browns. Like we talked about the energy when they asked, why is this team doing so well? They said the energy on this team is unreal. The confidence that each player has on both sides of the ball, knowing that they can win any game, is going to do it. Now, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Ravens win it. I'm for sure, at the very minimum, I'm taking the 6.5 against the spread for Washington. It's not going to be a 7-point win for the Ravens if they do win. It's going to be close. So I'm going to pull Commanders, but I'm not going to take them if I'm playing a bet against it. I'm playing the spread at -110, 6.5.
Absolutely. And then we move on to the Lions and the Cowboys. Cowboys are coming off a win this week, and the Lions coming off a bye. So what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, bye weeks are huge. All right, it gives you 2 weeks to prepare for a team, depending on how you're going to use it. Some teams they just rest the whole time, but the physicality that every week is in NFL, having a bye week just means you come in so fresh, feeling great, and especially in a big game like this, it's going to be important for the Lions, not the Tigers, the other Detroit team, to make this win here. You're going to see a Amon-Ra St. Brown come in. It's going to be huge. He's going to feel healthy after he was banged up early. Now, these early buys suck at the end of the year.
Absolutely.
This is going to affect Detroit at the end of the year. But right now, this is the best thing for Detroit facing a Dallas team. That they lose, fall to 3-3, and fall behind in that division.
Yeah. Like you were just saying, it's a big week for the Lions just because they're coming off that bye week. They're getting Amon-Ra back fully healthy. Jamar Gibbs is getting another week to rest. And so it's going to be a good looking Lions team, the fresh Lions team compared to the Cowboys, who are coming off of a 3-point win against the Steelers, which was a pretty hard fought game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting. I'm going to take the Lions here. The bye week is too useful. The lack of running game versus Dallas, we didn't even have to mention that, even though that is obviously a factor. They haven't had a single rushing touchdown in their rushing leader. That's a big problem.
Yeah.
And the Lions having everybody healthy is just, them versus, I think you take them in any normal week versus the Cowboys. You give them 2 weeks, it's easy for me.
Yeah. I had the Lions too. I didn't think this was going to be much of a conversation to talk about who would win that game. So
yeah, I would agree.
Your Bills versus the Jets.
Now, this is going to be an interesting game. Monday night. They both get a little extra time to prepare, but they both need it in fully different ways.
Yes.
Bills come off 2 straight losses, tough losses, for 2 different reasons, to be honest. I would say the first week versus the Ravens, their defense got killed, 11 yards on the ground per carry. We talked about they need to fix that. They did a little bit, but then this week, their receivers struggled to catch anything. A little bit on Josh Allen. Obviously, you got to give them situations where they can't catch it. But I would say a lot of those balls were catchable, and they just could not come through and get the catches. So, of course, it has to be the week they play Stephon Diggs. The Bills fan, that hurts. Obviously, he didn't say anything, but he was thinking the same thing. We were all thinking it would be nice to have a number 1 guy.
Yeah.
I wish it would have been any other week, to be honest. But it's going to be a response week for them. On the other side, the Jets just fired their coach.
That's what I was
The
thinking.
defensive coordinator comes in as the new head coach.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a difference, right? We talked about the OC was struggling. It might have been the OC's fault. They give it to the defensive coordinator. Obviously, he has a big edge. The defense hasn't been that bad. They haven't been that great. Don't get me wrong, but we know that they rely on their defense more. But can the offense recover? The head coach wasn't calling plays, but the offense has to figure out, can we take these explosive shots and trust Aaron Rodgers to do it while still having Breece Hall be effective in any kind of way, whether that's play action or just get straight up, give him 3 downs every down. I don't know.
Yeah. This is interesting. It's definitely, like you said, it's a big game for both teams. The Bills they got to get going because if they don't win this week, playoff hopes are not looking hot unless they just make a big run.
The big thing for them is their division is terrible right now.
Yeah.
The Jets.
So it's keeping them in.
The Jets are bad. Tua is hurt.
Yeah.
The Patriots are the Patriots. They look decent. The Patriots look better than people thought, but they're not winning the division. We all know that.
No, I was gonna say the Patriots are not the team to pose a threat. Jets, you're gonna see a very defensive sound team now, just because you have the defensive coordinator as your head coach. But Rodgers got to turn around on this week. I don't see them going anywhere I don't see them making the playoffs at all. Like after this week, if they lose, they have no hopes after this week if they lose. So it's biggest. Oh, I can't even say who it's bigger for to win this week.
It's huge for both teams.
Yeah,
It's the most important game for both teams.
Yeah.
No more teams have more pressure than these two.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go against your Jet. I'm gonna have to go against your Bills, man. I think Rodgers gonna turn it around this week. He has no choice to. But even though they're finding their head coach, honestly, I think this is a wake-up call for the OC.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to go back to the drawing board, put in some new plays this week, and they're gonna go through those plays to simulate heavy gameplay practice this week. So
yeah, the Jets. This is a wake-up call. This is desperate. You have to win now because everybody's on the hot seat. We thought for sure Rodgers would be fine. No, everybody, including Breece Hall, who's their best player. Yeah. Everybody on the team's on the hot seat. They could all be gone next year. So everybody's fighting for a spot now. Nobody's safe, which means they're gonna have to play with a different fire. But I think coming out now that Josh Allen's gonna have to come out and play spectacular for people to believe that he's still the guy he is, even though those first 3 weeks were the top 3 weeks we've seen out of any quarterback to start the season. So I can't go against my Bills either way, but now that I have reasoning behind it, I will take them either way. That's going to wrap up our NFL section. We still got MLB playoffs and a little bit of NBA talk to go, so do not leave yet. We'll be back after this. Welcome back. MLB playoffs now in the divisional round. We talked about it last week. We were both pretty right. I'll say that. So far, we both look good on our predictions. That's, don't expect that again. I would hope I'm right as I'm a Royals fan, and I'm definitely picking the Royals. But let's look into both of these matchups and what that means going forward for the MLB playoffs. We start with the AL. We see the Yankees versus the Royals. The Royals beat the Yankees yesterday 4-1, 5-6 in the first game. Really great game, first game. Probably, absolutely, in my opinion, the top game of the
playoffs so far.
Of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Super great game, tight back and forth. And then the Royals won one yesterday, but they played terrible. So don't get it wrong.
Yeah.
Bobby Witt's terrible right now.
0 for 3.
He was 0 for 9 on the series. 0 for 9. Vinny P, 0 for 10 on the series. Both those are their top two guys not performing, and they found a way to win. I didn't think that was possible. They probably won the 2 games that way this whole season. I didn't think it was possible they could win that in a playoff game against the top team in the AL and the Yankees.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be huge for them moving forward. They split the series into the Yankees. They had to. Obviously, you can't go down 2-0.
Yeah.
But now they're coming back to Kauffman. You know that that crowd's going to be roaring. You know that Bobby Witt and Vinny P are not going to continue playing that way. And but we've seen Aaron Judge struggle, and all those that people are like, okay, well maybe he'll do good. You're going against what you had your crowd on your backside. Now you go into an opposing crowd that's ranked like top 10 every year when they get to playoffs.
Yeah,
some of the loudest stadiums, and we've known Judge to kind of choke in the playoffs. He's not that guy. This is going to be a great series. I probably see it going to 5. It probably splits again, then goes back to the Yankees. But man, this has been. I mean, the Royals have impressed me so far.
Yeah, as I said last week, not a Royals fan, but they are a Missouri team, so I like when the Cardinals aren't in, I'm gonna root for them. But yeah, Chiefs Kingdom was rocking last night. It was looking like Royals Kingdom last night. But yeah, it's gonna be hard for me to root against the Royals. I see it going 4.
Yeah,
4 games, and I got it going towards the Royals.
Yeah.
I think they win next game. I think they win game 3. I think they win the next 2. It's hard to come off of a passionate win like that, and then come back home and struggle.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, I got the Royals winning that one, and like you were saying, Judge struggles in the playoffs. So I I think it gets much worse now that doesn't have the home crowd on his back. He doesn't have that energy behind him. He's going to get the energy sucked out of him from the passion that the Royals fans bring. So
Yeah, I think the biggest factor we have here, right, when Garrett Cole's on the mound, the Yankees are a great team.
yeah,
Outside of that, we thought maybe Rodon was going to be the one that could be the other guy, but he got beat up fast by the Royals here, by the the guys that you wouldn't expect. But that's what it takes when you see these teams that make the long runs in the World Series. It's your big stars are not going to be able to perform for 4 straight series. It never happens that way. It's your ninth guy, your eighth guy, your seventh guy that make an impact, that make you win these series because they're so long. You have to win almost 20 games to win the whole thing. You can't have your star players playing good every game, which is why I was so impressed.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at the starting pitching matchups for the rest of the series, we still have Lugo, who is a Cy Young candidate for the Royals. You still have Brady Singer, who hasn't even thrown a pitch in the postseason, who's arguably was a Cy Young at one point, still a great pitcher. And the Yankees don't have anybody left that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And now you're going back to the Royals. I just don't see a way that the Royals don't pull this out. So Kansas City Kingdom is fired up, 5-0 for the Chiefs. The Royals are about to make the ALCS for the first time since 2015. That crowd's gonna be rocking. I cannot wait to see playoff baseball back in Kauffman Stadium because we know what it's like. It's insane. Then you go to the Guardians Tigers. Tigers tied up last night. With screwball pitches, they don't lose. That's basically what we've seen.
pretty much.
But he can't pitch 5 games. They haven't even thrown another starter out there. That's what surprises me. They have 5 starters, not great. They played screwball bullpen. I don't see them winning the series like that. They can't.
No.
And if they somehow squeeze out this round, they can't do it. There's no way they do it again. Lightning is to strike 3 times for sure, not twice.
Yeah. I don't see him starting game 3, just so they get him rest. But for sure be expecting him to start game 4. But yeah, like you were saying, they aren't going to win starting him every game. So I got it going 5 just because.
Yeah, he's that good.
Yeah, but I don't have it in their favor.
Yeah, and their offense is explosive. They're super hot, but to me, it's a lack of management to play one starter and expect you to win the series. It's just not possible. Even if you play him every other game, one, he's not going to be healthy every time you play him. And you have to put some confidence in some starter. Whether have him have a quick leash, I don't care, but put him in. You know what I mean? Like, you are screwing yourself now, but even in the future, when you come, if you want to be back next year, which everybody does, you have no other starters with experience now because you played no starters in the whole series. I don't know. I was high on the Tigers, but their lack of management is atrocious to me, and that's why the Guardians pull it out. But we do see here the AL Central, which came into the year looking like probably the worst division in the league, have 3 teams left, and guaranteed that they're going to have one of them, if not 2 of them, in the ALCS. That's all I'm saying. Look, you never know in baseball. Such a long season, so many things can happen.
Yeah.
For next year, if anybody's placing your bets on who's going to win, the division or just the leagues, watch out for those underdogs because this year has been the most. But you never know what happens. Go to the NL too. This is where it gets crazy. Padres, Dodgers. By the way, they're all 1-1 series. Interesting,
Yes.
right? We thought home field advantage would be big for these teams, but it looks like maybe the fatigue of not playing for 9 days probably comes from the factors, no momentum.
Yeah.
So they all split them. But this is the best series in the NL by far.
Absolutely. It's the most talent on each side of the ball.
I would agree.
For sure.
The Dodgers are the Dodgers, but the Padres are insanely talented. For people who don't know, they're in the same division, so they play each other all the time. And they split the series here. The Padres, I think, may even had a lead. So it sucks that it has to be this way, that they meet in the ALDS, or the NLDS. But man, I don't know who comes out of this one.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't have a winner for this one. Just gonna throw out a toss up. I think I got the Padres winning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just got the Padres winning. Strange feeling. Don't bet on me though. Don't bet on that one for sure. But yeah, that's all I can say.
Yeah, that was going to be really interesting to watch. And I think whoever comes out of that probably goes into the World Series. But the hard part is they probably go to 5. If this Phillies Mets wraps up at 4, then you have a little bit of advantage of a little bit of time off.
Yeah,
That might play into a factor, but I think both those teams are more talented than the Phillies and Mets.
absolutely.
But we'll look at those series nets. I do have the Dodgers winning it. I think Ohtani's impact in the playoffs is bigger than anybody else
Yeah,
on that Padres team,
Especially
even if
after
he's
this-
not pitching.
especially after the season he's had this year.
Insane.
Once he gets going, we all know it's a man.
Yeah.
Nobody can stop. So
Yeah, and his first time in the playoffs, he's going to get one of those games where you're like, this is a statement game.
yeah,
I would assume. Now, he could be like Aaron Judge and never show up in the playoffs, but
this doesn't seem.
I have hope in Ohtani
Yeah.
for that. The last series of the NL Phillies Mets, the Mets pull out game 1 in the 9th inning with 5 runs. Huge game. And then Phillies tie it up like we expected. They're not going to lose 2 at home.
No, I can't.
But this series now looks more interesting than ever because we thought the Mets were probably going to go down 2-0 and be done. I don't think the Mets pull it out. It would be super interesting if they would because I think they're a better matchup for Padres, but I think Phillies is a better matchup for Dodgers. But I think Phillies pulls it out.
I actually had the Mets pull this out. I think it's gonna go to 5. I just don't think the Phillies are gonna get it done in the long haul. Don't get me wrong, they're a great baseball team, but this Mets team is greedy. This Mets team is hungry,
Yeah.
and they showed that. So
Yeah, and we thought that maybe they'd be able to fatigue playing 2 games the day before having to travel, and they have showed none of it.
that's why I said they are hungry.
The one thing that makes me intrigued, their only team in the wild card went 3 games. How does that play to a factor? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't. But I think there may be a little bit of there.
Yeah.
But I just, that's going to be super interesting to watch. I think the AL is pretty much, in my opinion, pretty close to wrapped up. I don't think the Yankees win 2. There's no chance they win 2 and the Royals. And
Absolutely not.
the Royals don't lose 1 at home. They're not going to. If anything, they sweep at home. They win 3 in a row somehow.
Yeah.
And then we know the Guardians are going to win it out. So the NL is nobody knows who comes out of that, but it's going to be interesting. We're going to commercial break. We're going to talk a little bit, just briefly, about the NBA and what that means, what that looks like this year. There's a lot of new teams, a lot of new faces. We'll see what we have.
ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
All right, we're back. Time to talk NBA. NBA season starts in 19 days.
Can't wait.
My favorite season of the year. NBA is looking spicy this year.
Yeah, so many new things.
Yeah, a lot of teams that you wouldn't expect to make playoff runs. They're picking up some guys. They're looking real good this year. Who are your surprise teams this year, or what is your surprise team this year?
Yeah, I got a couple that I was all debating from Eastern Conference. We all kind of figure Boston will come out of it, but that doesn't mean that's not going to be contenders throughout the year. I think Indiana makes a big jump with Tyrese Halliburton being hungry coming out of the whole Olympic situation. I think they're going to be big. New York can be big. Their lack of depth does fear me a little bit.
Yeah.
You don't know what that team looks like. But like I said, the West is the big one. The Pelicans, when they were healthy at the end of the year, or beginning of the year, were the top team. Now Zion's playing more and more games every year. If Zion stays healthy, Brandon Ingram's there, they are a dangerous team. They could even finish top in the conference.
Yeah.
I still have my OKC winning in the conference, but you never know. And then you have a team like Minnesota who just gave up Karl-Anthony Towns. Now that means Anthony Edwards probably has more touches. Who hates that? Anthony Edwards is that guy. That's going to be a team to watch, even though they finished top of the conference. Houston, with all their depth, and they added Reed Shepherd, who's my favorite rookie. I think he's going to make an instant impact. They still have Jalen Green and tons of pieces with Dylan Brooks and Fred VanVleet and all the guys, Sangoon. They have so many pieces. They could make a deep run. Sacramento with Jamar. Now all of a sudden it looks like they could be the top team in the West. Dallas just went to the NBA Finals. I mean, the West is stacked. Let's be real, and you never know who's coming out of that. And only a couple teams really got worse. The Warriors obviously got worse. The Clippers got worse. Other than that,
I would say every team in there is stacked to some degree. So, I agree with you on that one. I got two teams, and you said both of them. I got the Knicks. Despite their lack of depth, like you talked about, they're always a team that's in the fight. No matter what team they play, best of 7 series, best believe it's going to 6 or 7.
Yeah,
for sure. And then the Kings, that DeMar pickup was crucial for them to me, to make that next leap, because they get another scorer who can give you 20 to 30 a night. And he's a consistent scorer. It just causes issues for other teams in the West. Granted, like there are a lot of great perimeter defenders in the West, but there's not many that can stop a mid-range from DeMar DeRozan, let alone any in the league. So,
there's a lot of rookies that are going to make an impact. What we see coming in the draft, there was no top guy, right? Everybody said there's no top guy. This draft was terrible.
Yeah,
I would say the last time we had no top guy was 2015, which ended up being one of the top draft
classes of all
2000s. Maybe not all time. You have Giannis comes out of there as one of the top guys. I mean, there's so many guys that you see that maybe not star level like Giannis, but they all made an impact. All of that top 15, even the second round.
Absolutely.
So I think we have to talk a little bit about the guys that can make a surprise, because we might not see some of these top guys like Zachary make a big difference or Alexander Sarr, but I think there are a lot of names that we could see being consistent guys, even in year one. And for me, the biggest one of them all is Reed Shepherd. I already talked about him a little bit.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen the clips of him in practice already, he is a menace on both sides.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. He's going to cause you problems on defense and then go down and score on you on offense in half a second. And then do it again. His motor never ends. And people were questioning the pick. I don't know why. I mean, I know he came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And this ranking wasn't projected to be a top 3 pick, let alone a top 10 before the college year started. But he is so good.
Very high motor player. Since we started talking about the rookies, my rookie to watch this year was Jared McKean, sharpshooter from my dream school, Duke University. But it's a big piece for them, because you add another scorer out there. As long as he plays consistently and he plays well, you add another perimeter scorer, which spaces the floor even more for Embiid to go to work.
Yeah.
And that could be another surprise team as the Sixers this year. Just depends on how that plays out for them. But McCain is another high motor player like Reed Shepherd. He can shoot the lights out of the ball, and he sees the court well. Granted, he doesn't play the one, or he didn't play the one. He's a combo guard that can see the floor really well. He's able to attack. He's able to obviously finish with either hand. But he just brings a different level of energy and excitement to the game, being a TikTok star. But aside from TikTok, he is a great basketball player. He's a guy that you want on your team. Off the court, he brings a lot of great energy, and we've been hearing about that for a while. So
I think there's a lot of guys here to make an immediate impact, and some that will. I think when you look at the end of the draft, 10 years later, you're going to see the best guy out of it probably was someone that didn't have a big role, like Giannis. So don't count out any of these guys in the draft class.
Absolutely.
But some guys are going to make an immediate impact. Let's talk about Rob Dillingham, who's going to Timberwolves.
Yeah.
Now they don't have Cat, right? Not the same position, but there's shots to be had. He probably doesn't start over Mike Conley, but he's going to come off the bench and get big minutes.
Yeah, this is a growth year for Rob. And like you said, he's going to get big minutes for sure. And this is going to help Minnesota a lot, because now the ball doesn't have to play through Ant. So teams are going to have to figure out how to stop Rob. He's very shifty, very crafty.
Yeah.
You see Kyrie like craftiness to him. and he's a guard that sees the floor extremely well. He's able to knock down shots as well too. So it just makes him that much more versatile. You don't really know which way to guard him.
Yeah.
He's dominant. It's almost like he's ambidextrous as far as handling the ball goes.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a weak hand. So yeah, that was a huge pickup for Minnesota for sure.
I would agree, especially being a contending team. That was their problem last year when Ant didn't have the ball. It's not that Mike Conley couldn't bring it up, but he wasn't a threat.
Yeah, he couldn't score with the best of them.
Yeah, so this is going to be a huge pickup for them now that Carl Anthony Towns is gone. They're going to play that traditional 4 and 5 man. Probably still Naj Reid off the bench, so maybe dealing him as the 6 man, but he's going to have the ball in his hand when he's in the game. So make a big difference. A couple big guys still. I'm gonna go over Zach Edey if that's okay with you, because he's a big guy. I just think that, like, with their situation with Jared Jackson Jr., that he doesn't get as much touch as people say. He's number 1 in Rookie of the Year odds, but I don't see him being as impactful as and I just think that, like, the amount of touches he had at Purdue was why he was so successful. Now he is going to be efficient as he was in college.
Absolutely.
He's going to be a shot blocker. I just don't think his potential is much higher than what we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
It's super hard.
I would say it's hard just because we haven't seen him play with Ja.
Yeah.
He's been training with Ja all summer.
Yeah.
So we did see in a preseason game the other day, caught a lot from Ja.
Yeah.
It looked beautiful. So the 2-man game is going to be there for sure. And like you said, he's a shot blocker. He's going to be very efficient. We know those things. It's going to depend on how he squares away with the other bigs in the league. If he's able to stand his ground, I think that he will have a really good season. And I think his ceiling can grow personally. Yeah. This might not be the year to judge whether or not he's going to have a great career. But I also don't see him being one of those bigs that's in the league for like 3 or 4 years.
No, he's going to have a career.
Yeah.
It's just going to be hard. We've seen a lot of a similar game. Rudy Gobert, not near his size physically, as a bulky guy, but similar around the rim, kind of shot blocker. They struggle with those kind of guys in the playoffs. And that's where I think the biggest impact comes from. But a couple of names to watch out for as we wrap up the NBA before we take our top picks. Cody Williams on the Jazz.
Yes.
The Jazz have a lot of opportunity here as they keep going. So it's going to be interesting. There are going to be a lot of touches to go around for the Jazz. They're going to have to, figure out who's their guy. And we saw his brother have success, so there's obviously an opportunity for him. If we look at the Bulls, they got the projected top pick coming into the year out of the G League, Mataz, and I think he's still a bucket. Don't get me wrong. He's not as efficient. And that seems to be a lot of the problem with anybody in the G League coming out is their efficiency. But with Zach LaVine, the whole Zach LaVine thing, we don't really know where it's going. He's probably off the team if somebody wants him. Is basically what the situation is.
Yeah.
Kobe White, I don't think is a 25-point per game scorer. He's going to be really good, but there's going to be a lot of opportunities for shots with Zach LaVine and DeMar probably both gone.
Yeah.
I mean, DeMar's already gone, but Zach LaVine's probably soon to be gone.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to watch. And then my sneaky pick for Rookie of the Year, number 17 pick, Dalton Connect on the Lakers.
That's one of the rookies that I'm excited for. I can't wait to watch. I can't wait to watch him play this year. He has a lot of upside to his game.
Yeah.
Knockdown shooter. He's a big. So like LeBron can play more than one if he really wanted to.
Yeah.
But he doesn't necessarily have to. But this kid, he can go.
Yeah.
He can really go.
Exactly. And he's going to get a lot of touches. He's probably going to come out the 6-man role and just give me the ball. That's what he's good at. So,
yes. On my end, Donovan from UConn.
Ooh, that one's really good too. Clean could be a really effective guy. The thing with him, what do they do with their center situation? So many centers with DeAndre Ayton and Robert Williams.
Yeah.
If they give Donovan the keys, he's my top guy by far. But who knows with that situation? They got to get rid of one, for sure, one of the two. You can't have 3 guys backing up, and I think it has to be Ayton first.
Yeah,
but I think Williams has to be traded for a piece that can go around. That's more of a wing guy.
I was gonna say I think they're gonna go away from him and they're gonna trade him for either a wing or another guard for sure.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
let's go over. We'll save the picks actually. As we get closer, we'll save the picks because we got a lot of preseason left. A lot of you don't want to pick a team gets injured. You know what I mean? So we'll end it here. We appreciate you all joining us today. This was your Balls and Both Sides podcast with Noah, Frankie,
and Rhyan Shanklin.
We hope you have all a great rest of your week. NHL starts tonight. Be watching for that. It's going to be a great season there. NBA is on its way, and MLB playoffs continues. So there's plenty of sports to be talking about next week, and we'll have even more about the NBA, of course.
Maybe get some NHL in there too.
Maybe. Enjoy you guys this week. Peace.